Finally, let's talk about the Ole Miss wide receiver that won't be a bust. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I am your host, Tom Grossi, and today we are going to dive headfirst into the pool, the wide receiver pool, once again with Mr. A.J. Brown. Before we get to that, I want to do a big shout out and thank you to all our Patreons and some new Patreons who decided to join over the weekend. So much so, we need not one, but dos. That's two for our Spanish-speaking friends, pages for credits. So a big shout out and thank you. Check out patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy if you would like to support me. And there's also some really cool rewards that I think you'll enjoy. And again, a big thank you. Now, let's talk about A.J. Brown. Now, I gotta be completely honest. When it comes to wide receiver, I don't see wide receiver as a top 5 need for the Green Bay Packers. And I know I may be alone in this. And I'm not saying that just because it's not a top 5 need, in my opinion, don't draft a guy like A.J. Brown. Because if we were going to draft a wide receiver in the first round, and by the way, I want to be very clear, this is at number 30, this is not at 12. If we were going to draft one at 30 or very early second round, A.J. Brown would be near the top of my list of guys to pick. But the reason why I don't think we need a wide receiver is because we went very wide receiver heavy last year, picking up guys like Equinemius St. Brown, Scantling. You also had Jamon Moore. And you might turn to me and say, Tom, those guys really didn't produce a whole lot last season. And you're 100% correct. Just because they didn't have a good year last year in their rookie season, I'm not ready to give up on either of those three. Even a guy like Jamon Moore, who struggled mightily, because some of you will remember Devontae Adams had some struggles in the beginning of his career. And look at him now. Started from the bottom. Now he's amazing. So that's where I'm sitting when it comes to wide receiver. And obviously we also have Jay Kumaro, the touchdown god, obviously signing another 1-year extension. So, I think we have a lot of depth at wide receiver. It's just, I think a lot of fans who want to draft wide receiver, they want that early draft pick of the guy who's going to be like a star. And A.J. Brown, he might be that guy. Sitting at 6 foot, 226, doing pretty well. Combine, had a good combine, ran a 4.49, which I know people were concerned about his speed, so that was pretty good. 36.5 on the vertical. And his stats are pretty damn impressive. Obviously, I looked at him and he caught my eye when I was looking at the DK Metcalf highlights, if you will. And he caught my eye of someone who is either phenomenal after catching the ball. The yards after catch were insane, but just his, I don't want to say elusiveness, because I don't want to, I feel like that's too general. It's just that he is a very hard guy to bring down, and he has really quick feet. But we'll talk about that. So in 2016, 29 receptions, 412 yards, about 14.2 yards average, 2 touchdowns, right? He's played in all the games, only had 1 start. 2017 had a great sophomore season. This is also when his QB was hurt, but 75 receptions, over 1,200 yards at 1,252. Had 2 games that were double-digit receptions, 11 touchdowns, and averaging about 6.25 catches per game. And then 2018 followed up his sophomore year with another successful season with 12 games, 85 receptions, over 1,300 yards with 1,320, 15.5 average, 6 touchdowns, had 6 games over 100 yards, and basically averaging 7 catches a game. So you put that all together, and what do you got? You got a freaking workhorse. That's what you got. And what really impressed me about his tape was I was mentioning before his quick feet is that when he gets the ball, he runs, obviously he's a slot guy, but every time he gets the ball, there's a genuine concern on the defense that he is going to take that 15, 20 yards, and maybe even sometimes, as some of these clips will show, to the house. And that's what impressed me the most. So he has really, really steady hands. He's able to have great concentration. He makes some of the more difficult throws. He doesn't get a ton of separation from the defenders, which could be problematic. But again, if you're moving him into the slot, then he'll be able to run those slants, and maybe, who knows, we can actually have a slant game once again. You know, that play that used to be really, really good. He's an awesome route runner, so while you may have, like, DK Metcalf, right? So there's a game against Alabama where A.J. Brown struggled, and you have DK Metcalf, who's basically the guy who scored the only points in that game, had a long touchdown. But the route running of A.J. Brown is pretty damn good in that he's able to get off the line quickly, he's able to confuse defenders, and he's able to usually get open across the middle, or at least have a dump out. I saw some wide receiver screens that they also utilize as well, which the Packers also love to do. Now, where I need to point out some of the flaws, he did struggle in games against Alabama, but again, that whole team struggled against Alabama and LSU. You know, those sure hands weren't as sure against LSU, but again, you're also talking about, you know, really, really quality teams. And so while it's a little like, meh, like it's a little ding in the prospect, I think overall you have a really strong player. And when it comes to the Green Bay Packers and why they should draft a guy like A.J. Brown, and why I would even consider doing it at the end of the first round or early second round if he's still there, is that I know we got Scantling in the hopes that he would be the new Randall Cobb. And I'm not giving up on that, right? Because Scantling in the beginning of the year, you know, was kind of, that trajectory was going up, 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 up. He was getting some looks, he was getting some targets, and then that kind of dropped off. And, you know, Aaron Rodgers has come out and said that he thinks the rookie wide receivers need to work harder. I'm hoping that they'll be able to obviously draft some new schemes with some new offensive coordinators and a new head coach. But on top of that, establish that connection and relationship with Aaron Rodgers. But if there was a guy that, you know, could come in and make an immediate impact, I think A.J. Brown is that guy. Now, the question is, if you have a T.J. Hawkinson sitting at 30, because if he hasn't been taken for some reason, or an A.J. Brown, like that, in that case, I feel like you have to go with the tight end. So I can justify taking A.J. Brown, but again, depending on who's on the board, that's only if, like, there isn't a strong tight end, there isn't a strong defensive tackle, or if we haven't addressed that already at 12. And even, like, safety we could potentially get at the end of the first round. So while I could see us potentially getting him at 30, I would personally feel more comfortable getting him in the second round if he's obviously still there. But just because we have so much depth at that position. But all in all, I think he would make Aaron Rodgers a very happy man having a brand new target. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think we should be even looking wide receiver in the first round, or do you think that's something, since it's basically a luxury pick for the Green Bay Packers, should this be something that should be addressed later on in the draft, if at all? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. You can always find me at Tom Grossi Comedy, TomGrossiComedy.com. And check out at Tom Grossi Comedy on all the social medias, including Patreon that you see right there down below. And check out Podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, and of course here on YouTube. Continuing with the 5 days a week, 5th week in a row. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with another one. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.